Not happening. Not happening.
My brilliance is unequaled! Oh, my research
Not happening. Not happening.
I cannot be contained! They would cage us all.
Hello, and welcome to the Dive-Bomb FALCONER build guide. This amazing, classic and super fun to play build comes back for Season 2. It has been slightly nerfed, and not only that, but there's builds with similar playstyle that do way more damage than it, and they are way more tankier than it, like the Umbral Blade FALCONER that has taken off, and it's just like, has entered the scene like a storm, and it's just like a build that is pretty crazy, and one of the best builds of the patch. Regardless, if you like to play this build, you can still play it. It's still really good, so let's get into it and let's talk about the changes. Again, this build, not many changes. One thing that is pretty big for the build though is the addition of Inheritance of the Erased. This is basically an item that can buff your Falcon significantly, and the buff that it gives it's like a persistent buff basically. If you only have a minion, this item is going to be buffing your Falcon non-stop, and this is really nice to give it the crit chance that it's missing from the nerfs to falconry. You know, this node here got nerfed, used to be 75%, now it's 50%, so you can benefit heavily from building that item because it's gonna give your Falcon whatever crit chance you have here times 2, which is basically the crit chance you lost from the other sources. Again, Talons of Valor, really good for the cooldown and stuff. You can play this build with a melee setup if you want to, and you will do a bit more damage. But overall, I like this setup because, you know, these bows just have crazy stats. Flat crit helps a lot, you know. It gives you a bunch of plus skills, and it's just really easy to get, which is a very big factor when making this type of decisions, okay? A Brewmaster Buckle, another classic. And the only reason we're not going for Core of the Mountain is because the 20 flat implicit damage for your Falcon, it's kind of hard to pass on. It's so much damage, okay? Okay, let's talk more about the build. Like I said, explosive traps have been nerfed heavily mana-wise, so I don't really recommend taking Automated Bomber. You just want to make sure that you proc the buff as much as possible, but you don't really care about the traps going too crazy, and it's very hard to sustain mana if you grab this point, so keep that in mind. Again, Falconry, it's been heavily nerfed, the Falcon in general, but it's still really strong. Nothing has really changed here over the last season. You grab the buffs, you grab the crit. Do not grab the crit multi, because your Falcon is doing melee damage at you, and you're not using melee skills, so you're gonna be giving your Falcon bow crit damage if you use a bow attack, and it doesn't use bow attacks, so don't use this node because it doesn't do anything basically. Unless you play the melee version. Like, that's one of the reasons why it does so much more damage. Again, a lot of explanations here. You know, basically what I said. Exposed weakness doesn't work with Talons of Valor, so be careful. For the passives, very classic, you know, we go for Falcon for all the flat damages, the crit chance, you know, the defenses, the Ranger's Mark, very nice with the Talons of Valor version, because you get a lot of flat damage for it with the amount of hits that you do. And, you know, all the classic, you know, Silver Shrouds and instant cast from Intuitive Connection. Everything is explained, you know, the tankiness, the health on crit for sustain. Nothing has really changed here. For the skill usage, you cast Explosive Trap, you know, to stack the defensive buffs. You generate a couple shadows, either with your Shift or with Smoke Bomb, and then you use you know, your Dive Bomb to consume Wings of Shadow and to create like a bunch of, you know, explosions that fall down the sky to do massive damage. Not many changes here. You can see it in the gameplay. Still really good, you know. For the gear, you want to be stacking as much dexterity as possible because the Falcon gets more damage per dexterity, and then you just want to grab the classic uniques plus some really cool additions that you could have this build, this patch, like again, Inheritance of the Erased and Brewmaster's Buckle, right? you will see like, why are you using the Doom ring? Like I said, the Falcon is doing melee damage, so if you apply Doom on the enemy, the buff to more damage done with melee attacks will apply to the Falcon, right? You are debuffing the enemy with your Doom so he can get more damage. Just like it would work in a party environment, basically. Really good, you know, get armor shreds, so the Falcon does even more damage, and GG, you know, does a lot of damage, and it's fun to play. Again, this is a minion melee build, so again, anything that is not melee doesn't really do anything for us. The scaling on this build can be a bit confusing for beginners, so make sure you read this so you understand exactly how to get damage and how to get defenses. Again, not many changes on this build. I don't really recommend to play this build this season because we have things like called Umbral Blade Falconer, which is very similar playstyle and way more damage. Again, if you like this build, go for it, play it, and enjoy the season. Hope you guys enjoy it. See you in the next one.
Sus yourself.
Enough of this, Harbingers. Entertain my dear sister for a moment.
Traveler, don't worry about me.
Such wasted potential. Orbis would have welcomed you. You fight for nothing. See the beauty we were denied. The terror turned her back on us. The void comes.
Not happening.
The gods tore our world apart. They deserve their fate. Embrace oblivion.
Not happening.
We treated the world no better. Death is our legacy. Die. The world called to Orbis. This is his answer. The void hungers so.
Not happening. Not happening. Not happening. Not happening. Not happening. Not happening.
The dawn of the black sun. My shadow will cover this world once more.
Not happening.
If my feet changes anything, this world is a dead god for a dead world. Pathetic. Blackened sky.
happening.